I've been in the media and entertainment space for many, many years, primarily working on the performance for linear television and then moving into digital video. So really looking at measurement from a cross-platform basis and looking at how the different components, the different platforms work together to build effectiveness for an advertiser's campaign. And today it's really about that digital data-driven transformation. And I think we've heard a lot about that in the context of the conference, is that you've got linear TV where there are just fundamental structural changes going on that are making it more like digital, more data-driven, and that's going to ultimately improve the performance of the medium. So those are the things that I've been working on, including things like audience-based targeting, audience-based selling, audience-based buying. So it's really that advanced TV ecosystem that I've really spent my career working in.
So we've heard several times at the conference here that video is video, and that we should be buying and selling digital video advertising combined with linear TV advertising without separating the two. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, that's a theme that continues to come up, is that, from an advertiser's perspective, it's video, in theory, it's video, and why should I care what platform it's on? And increasingly, sellers are combining digital video ad inventory with linear television ad inventory and selling them as one kind of type of advertising. But the reality is, I don't think we're there yet in terms of really this convergence between linear television and digital video. And that's because the consumer experience is fundamentally still very different on the two platforms. Now, I'm talking two platforms very broadly. Of course, there are many platforms that underlie digital video, just as there are different television, linear TV platforms. But essentially, you're looking at some big differences. A 7-inch, screen for the consumer versus a 7-foot distance between the consumer and the screen. 15s and 30s and 60-second spots versus much shorter spots. On digital video, the option for consumers to control their experience with the advertising, like on YouTube does this, and linear TV, that doesn't really exist right now. So even though I think it's an objective of some folks in the industry to have video be video be video, I don't think we're quite there yet.
So linear and digital, do you think the two platforms will be separate forever, or do you see them coming together?
No, I see them coming together, and I think we see a lot of that right now. Fox's Truex created a 6-second spot on television, which has gotten a lot of trade press, and there's been a lot of consideration as to whether, what's the value of a 6 or second spot versus a 15 or a 30. And the reality is, you can't just simply say that a 6-second spot is worth less than a 15 or a 30 because it's shorter. Because there are many more dynamics in play from a consumer experience. A lot of marketers are really reconsidering these longer creative executions because they might be self-defeating. I mean, what happens if you've got a 60-second spot and then consumers are choosing to tune away more quickly or more often than they would with a 6 or a 7-second spot? So there's a lot of dynamics in play. I don't think we're there yet, but I think ultimately the two platforms are going to come together, and it will be perhaps a more uniform consumer experience.
So you mentioned earlier this idea of attention. Explain that. Is there any research on this?
Yeah. Attention is, so today we think about impressions. Were you exposed to the commercial? The MRC has viewability standards, and a part of that standard is 2 seconds is the unit of measure, 2 consecutive seconds of viewing in order for it for the consumer to have the opportunity to see. But what marketers are really looking for is attention. Right? They want consumers to pay attention to the commercial. They want the consumers to understand the brand message and even embrace the brand message. And so we haven't yet, as an industry, gotten beyond this notion of opportunity to see and an impression as a metric to something that might be more meaningful to the marketer, which is this notion of attention. You know, are you grabbing the consumer's attention? Are they understanding what is being communicated, even in a very short creative execution? And I mentioned earlier the 6-second commercial. Some of the research that's being done is like by companies like TVision. They did a study for Shark Week that found that consumers who viewed at least 3 seconds were 68% more likely to tune in to the Shark Week programming. You've got companies like iSpot TV that are looking at, you know, the impact of the creative execution versus ad load versus the program environment in which the spot is aired as impacting consumers' attention to the commercial.
So the completion rate of a video doesn't speak to attention?
Well, that's attention. Some companies are measuring it in terms of the time that a consumer spends watching the commercial. That's sort of your basic measure. But in terms of a completion rate, you know, it's really a question as to whether, you know, how often a completion actually occurs on a 15 or a 30 or a 60, just because the measurement tools that we've traditionally used really don't measure that granularity. So there are companies out there attempting to measure, you know, completion rates, but it's an art, not a science at this point.